Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kyle Clark.
I'm Kim Christensen. Tonight, parents in Douglas County showed up with one final plea to the school board to keep 3 elementary schools open.
It did not work. Board voted unanimously to close those schools. 9 News reporter Spencer Soyser joins us now from Castle Rock with what happens next.
Yeah, so this doesn't take effect until the 2026-2027 school year. Still, parents are wishing it was never happening at all. They showed up tonight for one final chance to try to save their schools. Obviously, like you said, it didn't work. So here's what happens now. Saddle Ranch Elementary consolidates into El Dorado Elementary. Heritage Elementary goes into Summit View Elementary, and Acres Green Elementary will funnel into Fox Creek Elementary. This was a 2-year process the district started, they say, because of declining enrollment across Highlands Ranch. Still, parents didn't want to have to uproot their students' school lives and their education. But despite the unanimous vote tonight, the board members seem to recognize that.
Despite the level of exhaustion that myself and many of our parents have, we are still here tonight, whether virtually or in person, to fight for our school until the very end, because Heritage, its students, families, staff, and its legacy deserves to be fought for.
For me, this is probably up there in the top handful of the toughest decisions I've ever had to be a part of. I don't take it lightly.
The district says it'll make building improvements to the schools that are now having to take in more students. As far as the old schools, the district says they'll keep those maintained for things like the playgrounds, and then obviously if they want to hold any sort of meetings there as well. Live in Castle Rock, Spencer Soyser, 9 News.
A wildfire that started in Lmer County just after noon is contained tonight. The flames were spotted between LaPorte and Ted's Place. Residents nearby were evacuated for a couple of hours and then allowed to go home. Lmer County Sheriff's Office says a person caused it. It was an accident. We don't know much else about it. Makes you a little nervous.
Yeah, of course it does, Kathy. I mean, it's just, you know, we've had so much hot weather lately.
It's been unusually warm, dry, and windy. Elevated fire danger has been of prime concern for the last 2 weeks, but some relief on the way midweek in the form of cooler weather and beneficial rain. Tonight, we're tracking some isolated showers coming off of the foothills. Earlier today, we had beautiful clouds in the sky. Kind of look like little jellyfish out there. Carolyn Woodley from Hotchkiss sending in that shot for us. Temperatures will cool back to the mid-60s after topping out around 73 in Denver. We had some 80s in southern Colorado. The wind is much lighter, but is expected to increase as the weather system off to the west begins to come closer to Colorado, kind of increasing that mid-level moisture, which is still providing a few light showers on the I-76 corridor tonight from Sterling out to North Platte and Ogallala. We'll have skies clear tonight. Clouds increase again tomorrow. Widely scattered thunderstorms are likely. Beneficial rain coming in, but some areas just east of Lyman and Akron could have some small hail and damaging wind tomorrow evening. So we'll be watching that forecast closely for you. Temperatures will bottom out in the mid-40s tonight, so not a super cold night. And after a couple of warm, dry days, we have beneficial rain coming in and cooler highs in the 60s. I'm going to break down this extended forecast and the incoming storm coming up.
A woman from Greeley is recovering in Texas after she was shot in the back of the head. Haley Jewell was finishing up school, living in Houston. Police there say a friend of hers was playing with a gun in her home last week when he shot her in the back of the head. Jewel's grandparents say doctors believe that she'll make a full recovery, but they cannot safely remove the bullet from her brain at this point. Her grandparents just returned from Texas. Her mother's staying there as she recovers.
Yeah, we didn't know if we're going for a funeral or not. I mean, when we told her, when they said that she was shot in the head and there was a bullet in her brain, I didn't see any hope.
The man who shot her told police it was an accident. He's been charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
A man facing a first-degree murder charge in the rock-throwing death of Alexa Bartell will not take the stand in his own defense. 20-year-old Joseph Kanig confirmed today to a judge he made that decision in Jefferson County. Kanig was a teenager when prosecutors say he hurled a rock out of the driver's side window of a pickup truck in April of 2023. That rock crashed through the windshield of Bartell's oncoming car, hit her in the head, killing her instantly. Prosecutors rested their case Friday after calling 51 witnesses. Today, Kanig's attorneys began their defense with testimony from an expert on adolescent brain development.
I always am struck by the fact that adolescents do a lot of really dumb things and reckless things when they're with other adolescents that they would never do when they're by themselves. And I think that's probably a familiar feeling to most of us as individuals and to all of us who've been parents of teenagers.
Under cross-examination, that expert acknowledged he had not read any of the police reports or other documents in the case. He also acknowledged that he had not examined, assessed, or treated Kanig.
2 Coloradans are among more than 200 academic leaders condemning the Trump administration's efforts to dictate the policies of private universities in exchange for funding. DU Chancellor Jeremy Hafner and Colorado College Interim President Manya Whitaker signed on to the public statement today. It says the Trump administration's, quote, unprecedented government overreach and political interference is endangering American higher education. The Trump administration has paused or threatened to pause billions of dollars in federal funding for Columbia, the University of Pennsylvania, Princeton, and most recently Harvard. The government says that withholding the funding and demanding concessions is an effort to address anti-Semitism on campus. A restriction on deportations from Colorado will remain in place for now. Today, a federal judge in Denver extended her order. It temporarily prevents the Trump administration from moving or deporting anybody in Colorado using the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 unless the government's willing to give 21 days notice. In her ruling, District Court Judge Charlotte Sweeney expressed skepticism that the government can even legally use that 18th century law like that. It's only been invoked 3 times, most recently in World War II. The Supreme Court has not yet heard arguments about whether President Trump can use it against suspected members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. The freeze on deportations will stay in place until at least May 6th.
Some immigrants in the country without proper documentation are worried about going to church, all for fear that they're going to be picked up by federal agents. That's why a church in Colorado Springs is bringing services to them. Iglesia Nueva Vida says that many immigrants in their congregation have that worry, and that's why they're broadcasting services to members who fear deportation. Pastors are also going to some of their homes.
Before you bring the solution, you have to say, I understand your pain. It's important that look at people in the eyes and say, hey, we're here because we love you.
Within the last couple of months, Immigration and Customs Enforcement changed its years-old policy to allow agents to arrest migrants at sensitive locations, like churches and other houses of worship.
State legislators are considering a bill that would allow members of 2 tribes in Colorado to get free access to state parks. If the bill passes, members of the 2 Ute tribes would not have to pay for entry. Those tribes are federally and state-recognized sovereign nations. The bill's sponsors recognize members of dozens of other tribes that would not be included, but argue there's just not enough funding to extend it to all of them.
Colorado's home to a lot of many different tribes, not just the Ute people. That's what inspired the mixed emotions and the mixed feelings to have when just one specific tribe gets to have access.
More than 40 tribal nations have some form of representation in Colorado, and sponsors say giving all of their members free park access would cut too deeply into funding for Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
A man was arrested for breaking into cars in Cherry Hills Village. That's not the most interesting part of the story, though.
No, police were able to track this guy down, they say, thanks to a truck that was keeping an eye on things. Here's 9 News reporter Janelle Finch.
Committing crime isn't a walk in the park anymore. Cherry Hills Village Police have access to a fresh set of eyes.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yep.
Detective Justin Smith says at 3 Pond Park, 2 cars were broken into in the span of 1 week.
Both of these vehicle break-ins were forced entry.
The crime? Pretty old school. How they solved it is not.
15 years ago when I started this career, we didn't have the ability to access a video system through a car.
Smith used 360 video cameras from a nearby parked car to catch the suspect in the act.
This is the best example of modern-day policing in the 21st century.
Smith says the police tracked the suspect in more traditional ways, too. He says the department used surveillance video from gas stations and data from license plate readers.
The suspect used our victim's credit cards at a few different gas stations up in the Denver metro area.
But between teamwork and tech, they took a suspect into custody 1 week after the first reported break-in.
Just a great example of how it's benefiting us in our investigations.
Putting a close on this park perp case.
Cherry Hills Village Police say they were already watching cars on the road, but now they're seeing how those cars are changing to help them in their work. The suspect in this case is facing charges of first-degree criminal trespass to a vehicle, criminal mischief, and theft. Janelle Finch, 9 News.